Hi, today we're going to look at how we can generate chords and simple chord progressions in Ableton Live using MIDI effects. It's something I use a lot in the videos I've made, generating from simple note triggers effectively more complex musical ideas. The rack allows you to create an ever-changing atmosphere effectively, chords varying. But we'll come to that in a second. Just have a listen and then we'll get into the description of how it works, and as I say later, how to build this rack. Okay, let's have a look what's going on. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll notice, or you'll have seen that I've used this topic before, the generation of MIDI notes to control various different instruments and creations I've made. But I wanted to make a specific topic on it so that I can reference it in later videos where I'm making more complex things. I don't have to spend as much time on this. I can shorten those videos and people can come here and look how to build this. So what's going on? I have here a C3 note, a single note playing. I've turned off all the chord functions here. The probability I've set to 0, so none of the chords will be playing. We're just hearing the single C3 note come through. But you'll notice it's changing. And why is it changing? Is because we have this MIDI effect called expression control here. And this takes a note coming in. If I turn it off completely to begin with, it'll just play C3. You'll see it move up, but it's just playing the C3. Now it takes this note coming in, and every time this note is triggered, every time it's played, we can set this expression control to move up through a series of pitches. Here we have it set to 3, and I open it, control it with this here, the output range. So this is connected what I've called vary depth here. So if I open this up a little bit, you'll start to see the notes are generated and the pitch will change. We have 3 steps here. 1, 2, 3. So I can control the number of steps that are generated, so that 1 goes around once, twice, 3 times, then it resets. But I could set this to 5 if I wanted to, or I could set it to higher values. And then it will go, every time it triggers here, it'll move up here. It'll move up 5 times, then it'll reset. I can also, with this output range here, control the range at it's fluctuating around this C3. It's a bipolar modulation, so it fluctuates around here. So if I increase the range, we'll get higher notes and lower notes. I've limited this to 4% so that we don't get the extreme values. But you see now we're getting higher notes and we'll get lower notes generated. So this way I can control around this C3 value a series of notes. Okay, so let's turn that down again and let's see what happens later in the chain. I'll reduce that to 3. This then controls here via the target, the pitch here. It's modulating the pitch. So every time it generates a new value here, a new tone, it modulates the pitch. You see it moving very gently here. If I increase the depth, we'll see that the pitch range increases. The pitch then is sent, we can close this now, into the next MIDI effect, which is scale, and this effectively limits the notes coming in, whatever they are, to a particular scale. In this case, it's a D minor. We'll see a note will come in and it goes out. Let's see if we can get one. There, that one there went blue, came in as a B, you can see it here, came in as a B and went out as an A sharp. So it restricts all the notes to a musical scale. That's all this does here. We can control here with the scale function, this is mapped to it. I can change the scale, half tone diminished. I can go through the scale, I can change the bass here. I want it in D, D sharp, and go through all the 12 tones. Okay, so we have control over these functions here. They're all mapped to the macro, so we can control our scale, we can control the bass note. This then, this single note coming out of here, single note coming out, is played into the next MIDI effect, which is called Chord. And this is a little bit trickier to explain, but what's happening here is this single note comes in and it's shifted by these semitones. You can set these semitones. I've mapped them here so that I can, if we look at the first one here, +5, I can move it around. And so you can set up chord combinations here. And if you click on the button here, typically it's on velocity here, but you need to click here to chance. This then allows you to assign probabilities of these chords playing. Now at the moment I've set them all to 0 here, 0%, so none of these additional notes will play. But if let's open the first one here, we're open number 4. Now this is 100% chance that this shift here, number 4, +3 semitones will play. It'll play in combination with the note coming in, generated by the expression control. So we have our first chord set to 100% probability. If I want to introduce a new note, let's introduce this one. This is now activated. We see the notes are playing. The beauty of the probability is, of course, I can maybe set this one to 50%. It won't play every time, so we get variations in the chord structure that's being played here. I've assigned 4 of these here, so we can open up four notes and have 4 note chords. Okay, so what else is going on? That explains what's going on. Let's close some of these off. That explains what's going on here. But how do I get this variation here, which are called vary depth and the vary rate? Well, what's going on there? We'll close this up. How do we, because this is the key to it, this is generating the tones. I have an LFO here, it's an audio effect, so you need to have an instrument in here. But let's say once you've set up the effect, you can then delete this. In fact, I think you can actually just drop the LFO into this instrument rack here. Set this all up, and then at your will you can change the instruments out. So, but let's have a look what the LFO does. It's set up here 100%. It has a, in this case, a sine, but I can control this with the vary style. I can make this random, go here, random, binary, a whole series of different waveforms here. And this controls this output range here. This is mapped here, mod amount to here. So this affects how this swings around. Let's open this up fully. This is in control of this, and what it does is it controls the rate. So here we get a change here in the pitch every 1 bar. I set it to 1 bar here. So every time this comes round, let's have this up to, oh no, we'll have to do it here, sorry. Let's change the number of steps here, number of steps. Change this to 4. So every time we complete this 1 bar here, it moves up, a new pitch is generated. If I had a series of notes, let's delete this. If I had a series of notes in here, let's just put some notes in randomly. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put 6 in. We'll move this here. 6. Every time it gets triggered, it moves up through here. This changes the rate. Now if I change the rate, we'll get subtle variations. Let's change to 3/8. This affects the output range of the notes being triggered here. So do we get a higher note or lower note? So that's what's being affected here with the rate. So we can open and close the window of the note range. If I change this to quarter notes, 16th, sorry. It'll change every 16th we get. So I think you get the idea. With this, with the rate, we can control the melody in combination with the depth of notes that are played and also the number of notes that are played here. I just have 2. It'll fluctuate. Oh, I need to set this to a square. Let's set this to a square. It's easier to explain it. It's now fluctuating between the bottom of the square and the top of the square here. Open that up. So we have a change in the pitch range with the upper flank of the square and the lower flank of the square. Okay, so that is how we're controlling the expression control, and that's really it. We're generating then, let's open this, scale. So we're generating with the LFO rhythms. Let's get rid of these here for a second. Put one note in. We're generating with the LFO different rates of change. So every 1 bar, new pitch is generated here. There we go. Gets to the end of the bar. And then what we're simply doing here with our chord, as I explained, is just introducing offsets from this note that's coming in. These you can set up as you want. Right, I hope that's understandable. I'll show you very quickly how to set it up. So I've removed the MIDI instruments, MIDI effects, and the LFO from the instrument rack. I've kept the drift in here to speed things up, and I've also not changed the names here. I've kept the names. I'll show you how to map the macros as well. The instrument rack you find here under instruments, you can just drop it into here or drag it down into an existing MIDI channel. Let's have a look then. What do we need? We need some MIDI effects. We're going to need, first of all, the expression control. Pop that just behind the macros. We're going to need the pitch, control pitch, the scale to lock it to scale, and then finally the chord effect. On the end of the rack we're going to need an audio effect, the LFO. Put that in here. Okay, I think we'll set up the LFO very quickly. This has to be 100%. The rate we want in musical values here. The depth we'll set up in 1 second, and this will all map. Okay, that's okay. Let's have a look at the expression control. Then the expression control, we have to click down here to increment the bottom function. I have this on bipolar so that the notes swing around the C. You could have the unipolar just in one direction above the C if you like. We remove the random value here. What What else do we have? We need to map this to control pitch. That's done. This we will all map in 1 second to our macros. This value here set to 50, we need to set that to 0 to begin with. Okay. The scale, well, here you can simply choose, we'll map this to the macros, but you can just choose any scale. If you didn't want to map it to a macro, you can choose any one you want. So that's set up. The chord is set up as well, just need to switch it to chance so that we can control probabilities here. And I think we can close that, we don't need that, the instrument. We're good to go, so we can start mapping these things. There's some settings you need to make. Let's start with the expression control, or actually we'll start at the LFO because sometimes you have some issues with the mapping of the LFO. We need to map the rate here to the vary rate. I'll map that. Let's close these for a second so we can just look at the LFO, and we'll map the depth here to the vary depth, and we need to make an adjustment here to this. I had this at 4% because this controls the pitch range of the expression control. We don't want it swinging too wildly. I also mapped here the waveforms, which I called the style, and I believe that's the only thing we need to do is set this up now with the expression control. So we need to map the LFO here to control this range here. So that's now set, and hopefully if we come out of here we should only have 4%. Yes, so we can see here we now have a very small range. Here's only 4%. Right, so the LFO is controlling the expression control. The expression control we need to map as well. We'll take the steps here and map them to the vary steps, and I limited this in my case to 16. I didn't think I needed 32. This is the number of pitches generated. Is there anything else we need here? That's fine. The pitch we don't need to map. So we can close this one, we can close the pitch, we can open here scale. I had the scale choice here mapped, so I can select scales and also the bass. So we can select the bass note. That's set up now. Chord, we can map these here, shift 1, map, shift 2, 3. I chose 4. You could go for less or more if you want. There's 2 free here. And then the probabilities, of course, we click here. Probability of 1, 2, 3, and 4. I also mapped this strum, which I didn't show, but I can demonstrate quickly. This offsets the timing for each of these notes, so this one will play, at the moment they all play together. Let's have a look at that. That is here, 11, strum, and I believe I had tension as well mapped. So yes, so let's come out of the mapping. One thing we'll go back in, because with the chord, this is my choice again. I didn't have the full range here, 36, 36. I believe I had minus 24, plus 24 for these. Didn't think I needed the full range. So we'll set those quickly. They're done. So those are the values you need. This one we changed, this one here we changed, and the steps we changed. Okay, so let's go back to what was explained with the chord. So we can offset the timing of these notes being played here. So that if we go to strum now, we'll see the time increases. Let's see if we have something playing here. Okay, so we have something playing here. maybe we'll just go. This is all set up, we can turn some of these off. Set a chord. Okay, so this works fine, that's all set up. Let's just have a look then at the strum and how that works. Close this down here. Take that out of there. Just pop in some random notes here. If we have the strum activated here, that will just play chords. Alright, let's get rid of these too many notes. Try that again. And maybe we'll turn off this one. So if we have the strum activated, you can see it'll actually strum these values here. Instead of playing them all together, they'll actually be strummed. So that's quite a nice little effect you can use. Or you can just have them playing as chords. Okay, I think that's everything. It's a useful function to have. You can, I say, swap out your instruments. You don't have to have this with drift. You can add other instruments and use them with that. Once you're finished, you can save it here. Just click this little icon and you can save this and drop it into different projects you're using. So it's very flexible. Once it's set up, you can use it wherever you like. Okay, anyway, my name's Andrew. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a look at some of my other videos where I've taken this idea and combined it with some of the instruments to make more complex music generating devices. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care.